We're now in our brand new series called Relationship Goals. So, sino ba rito ang gusto magka-relationship? Thank you for your honesty, sister. Alam mo, yung mga hindi nagsasabi ng relationship, either plastic sila, or hindi sila tao. You know why? Because relationships is an integral part of our life. I'm gonna go into that in a little while. Sino dito ang gusto magmahal? O siya mga hindi nakataas na kamay, plastic kayo, hindi kayo nagmamahal. Okay, sino dito ang gusto minamahal? Everybody wanted to. Dalawang kamay. Okay. Now, the problem is, lahat tayo gusto natin magmahal. At lahat tayo gusto tayong minamahal. But the problem is, our definition, our concept, our idea, o ano yung pagmamahal, at paano magmahal, oftentimes have different ways and meanings. Ngayon, kung titignan ko yung mga taong nakikilala ko before, like for example, my parents, my uncle, my tito, my tita, when I grew up with, when I look at them on how they really practice love, oftentimes I question the way they practice love. For example, my dad was a severely alcoholic guy. Alcoholic siya. So he gets drunk 3 times a day. Meron ba kayo nakakita ng nalalasing 3 beses ang araw? My dad is a musician, right? So he wakes up, simulan ko sa gabi. Right after he comes from office, from work, he would drink, he will get drunk, he will wake up in the morning about 8, 9 o'clock, drink, get drunk, then by lunchtime he sleeps, wakes up in the afternoon, drinks before he goes to work, and then when he goes back to work, he again drinks. So 3 times a day. And so I saw that behavior on my dad and how he shares his love to my mom in a kind of twisted, crooked kind of way. And so when I grew up thinking about that, I said to myself, hindi ako magiging ganito pagmahal ng mga tao. But then I look around and I see different aspects of love on different people. I see it in the movies. I see it in the people I'm with. I see it in my friends. And this formed a lot of definition into myself and into my mind and into my psyche about what love is. Ngayon, ang problema doon is that yung definition ko at yung mga nakikita ko at yung mga pagkaintindi ko normally, I'm not saying all the time, but normally, is flawed, mali. At kaya ngayon, when something is wrong, and your understanding of something is wrong, no matter how hard you try to fix it, no matter how hard you try to apply it, if you are wrong in the basis, kasi simula pa lang mali na, kahit anong trabaho, kahit anong kayod, kahit anong practice, kahit anong talent mo, kahit anong effort mo, kahit anong practice mo, pagpapakita ng pagmamahal na yon, if it's fundamentally flawed, it's going to be wrong. And that's the reason why in our world right now, when we look around us, relationships all around us are a mess. And that's why we're excited and we're really, really encouraged that a lot of you showed up for tonight. Because these next 5 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, or even for some of you only 3 weeks, we'll talk about what it really means when it comes to relationship goals. Tonight is the start. We're gonna start with the foundation. Ano ba yung model? Sa mata titingin. Ano ba yung tama? Kasi pag tinignan mo yung tama, tinignan mo yung model, and you apply that in your life, amazingly, if that is the design of the relationship, things will fall in the right places. So, I asked you with this question at the start, is relationship important? Is it? Kanina, hindi nagtaas yung mga iba. Sabi nila, hindi daw. Right? Tignan natin. Relationships are important because we ourselves are relational beings. Ano ibig sabihin nun? We are relational beings kasi kinreate tayo, ginawa tayo, dinevelop tayo, pinroduce tayo ng ating creator na relational. Bakit? Kasi kung titignan natin yung Panginoon, our God, actually are three people or three persons in one God. So the three of them, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, are actually in a relationship. The ultimate perfect relationship there is. Kaya sila yung model. Pag tinignan mo, they respect one another, they collaborate with one another, they complement with one another, and their love for one another is unconditional. Kaya sinabi sa 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 to 8, everybody, could you read this with me? Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. The one who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. Pure love. Yan po ang nag-i-exist sa Holy Trinity. They are all equal and they all relate to one another and they are complete with one another. That's why patinignan natin, kung yung gumawa sa atin, nag-create sa atin relational beings or relational God or the relationship with each other is really unique and complete, therefore, kaya tayo ngayon, ganoon din ang gusto. That's why relationships are important. Look around us. I keep on asking to you. Our lives are filled with relationships. Intimate relationship. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng intimate relationships? Family. Di ba? Intimate, husband and wife. Mom and dad. Mother and sister. Father and brother. Lahat yan, intimate relationship. Relationship yan. We also have social relationships. A lot of you here are in social relationships. What does that mean? That means your friends. That means your barkada. That means your church mates, small groups, clubs, cliques, samahan, all of these things. No? And also, most of you also are in some sort of a different relationship called professional relationship. Trabaho. So kung ikaw, wala kang trabaho, wala kang professional relationship, meron kang intimate relationship at meron kang barkada relationship or social relationships. And that's why I tell you, the first thing that we need to understand is that relationships are important. Say that with me. Relationships are important. Kaya itong relationship goals, napaka-importante. Because this will change the landscape of your lives. This will fundamentally alter the things that you are in right now. Lahat tayo nasa relationship. And if we're all in a certain type of relationship, then it's critical. It's important that we all understand how to really function it is in this type of relationship. Kaya po nakita niyo yung ating hashtag, nasa gitna ng relationship, heart love. Kasi yung importanteng part ng relationships, yung pagmamahal, love. And we are going to talk about love tonight in a way that perhaps will open up other people's minds and idea of what love is all about. Would you believe, or do you agree, that love is a special and complicated emotion which is very difficult to understand? Naniniwala ba kayo doon? Kasi, kung hindi ka naniniwala doon, bakit lahat tayo naghahanap ng mga relationship? Hindi lang yung one-on-one relationship, all different kinds of relationship. So I keep on asking myself, most of people believe that love. Okay, by the way, let me ask you. Kasi I think gusto niyo mga tinatanong kayo. Who among you here believes that love is in the heart? Raise your hand. Okay, 2, 3. Nahihiya pa iba, 4. Okay, let me repeat the question. Who among you here believes that love is in the heart? Okay, second question. By the way, dito, kailangan sumasali kayo, nag-participate. Ha? Kanina, ang hina ng mob dance natin, no? 20 lang ang sumali. Dapat next time ng mob dance, lahat kayo kasali doon. Okay, next question. Who among you here believes that love is in the brain? Raise your hand. Okay, dun sa mga 23 na nagtaas, at saka yung 7 na nagtaas kanina, 30 lang yon. Over 300 tayo dito Ano nangyari sa iba? Walang sagot. Kaya kayo nandito kasi you want to find the answer. Very good. You're here. Okay. That's right. So let me just say it to you straight. Most people think that love is from the heart. But if you really look at it scientifically, love comes from the brain. It's here. It's the brain that signals the chemicals. When you see someone that you like, kaya yung chemical mo, nag-adrenaline mo umaakyat, Kasi yung brain mo sinasabi, dahil nakita ng mata mo, yung brain mo pinaprocess yon, kaya umaakyat. Yung puso mo walang ginagawa yun eh. Nakakalito lang yun. Right? True, nakakalito lang yun. And that's why, when you look at it, artists, painters, t-shirt, kahit to, t-shirt na, hindi itong t-shirt natin. Yung isang t-shirt natin, nakalagay, love, may heart. But it's the brain that really signals and understands love. At ba't ko po sinabi yun? Ba't ko sinabi yun sa simula pa lang? Kasi ito yung importante maintindihan natin dito bago tayo mag-continue. If it's the brain that signals love, if it's the brain that allows us to process love and the emotions, if that's the brain, then if you don't have the right perspective of love, then lahat ng mga gagaling sa puso mo, twisted, mali. Nakuha niyo yan? If you don't have the right perspective, if you don't know the basis and the foundation of love, it would trigger emotions in your heart that are so far-fetched and far off. Instead of being helpful, developmental, and embracing, it becomes destructive, it becomes detrimental, it becomes chaotic. Kaya napaka-importante, tama yung fondasyon. Kaya kinasabi namin sa mga bata ngayon, but we always say, kids, you should understand what's really right and wrong. Kasi kung bata pa lang at umakyat, hindi tama yung perspective, chances are, the way they would apply that would be flawed. And that's why in the English language, there's so many definitions of love. Okay, let me give you an example. In your table right now. Okay, in your table right now. Give one definition of love. Okay? One definition, one word. One word. Hindi pala one definition, one word. Ready? One word lang, hindi pwede. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, stop. Stop. One word, stop. Okay. I would assume that wala masyadong consistent way of expressing the definition of love. May kanya-kanya tayong idea, right? Kasi ang love, listen to me, kasi ang love is being used nowadays in totally different contexts. For example, I absolutely love my mom. Sinasabi ko, I absolutely love my mom. At pwede ko sabihin, the same word, I absolutely love to eat. Right? Or I absolutely like the way your hair is now set. Or I like the way I love the way your creativity is. Or I love your competitiveness. So in short, when you apply love, it comes in different shapes and sizes. Kaya ang mga Greek historians, ang Greek language, which is a very specific and unique language and very detailed language, ancient Greek philosophers defined love in 4 specific aspects. And I'm gonna share that with you quickly. Okay? Hindi po to Greek class, pero kailangan ko lang sabihin sa inyo kasi later on, it will serve as a foundation when we look at our text tonight. The first definition of love is called this one, storge. See that with me, storge. It's family love. Ito yung love na nasa pamilya. And the best example of this is a parent and a son, a parent and a child. Yun ang sabihin ng storge. Another kind of love, another definition of love is eros. Eros is the physical, sensual intimacy between a husband and wife. It expresses sexual romantic attraction. And we all know for a fact that God's word is very clear that the eros type of love or the eros kind of love is reserved for marriage. Okay? The third type of love is phileo. Means close friends, brotherly love. Ang problema, you see, we have different understanding of love. Ang problema, yung dapat phileo, brotherly love, sometimes nilalagyan natin ng eros. Kaya nagkakaproblema. Right? Nagkakaproblema. Minsan, dapat storge kind of love, family, intimate, family, pero ginagawa natin phileo, brotherly lang. Right? And so that's the problem. So we need to understand, ano ba ibig sabihin ng klaseng love na to? Kasi mamaya, pag-uusapan natin yan. And the final, perfect love of all is agape. Selfless, sacrificial, unconditional love. The highest of the 4 types of love in the Bible. The biblical agape love is a love of choice. Love of choice. The love of serving with humility. Brothers and sisters, ito yung pinaka-highest form, highest kind of love. It is intentional. It's a conscious choice. Ano ba't ko lagi sinasabi yun? Intentional, conscious choice. Kasi ngayon, ang love para sa kamunduhan, impulse. Impulse. Meaning, pag nakita mo, "Oh, love at first sight." Siya na. Right? Ito na yun. And more often than not, if you really look at the biblical basis and the true definition, but remember, I started with this. Kailangan natin maintindihan yung tama para ma-avoid natin yung mali. So if this is really if the agape, unconditional, selfless love is something that is really a volitional, it's a choice, it's a cognizant choice, then therefore it could never be out of impulse. And that's why when people come to me and they say, alam mo ba, in love na ako dito kagad. Ha? Kakakita mo pa lang, in love ka na? Paano nangyari yun? Kasi emotion ang ginagamit. Impulse. By the way, not to sound as if I'm KJ, obviously, yung impulse, yung emotion, yung romance, kasama sa love yun. Pero it's an afterflow. It's a direct result of a committed volitional intention to know the person and the commitment to love. Una muna yon, bago yung emotion, bago sumusunod. Ang problema, hindi tinitignan yung intellectual, hindi tinitignan yung tama, nagiging emotion na kagad, kaya hindi tayo nakakapagdesisyon. Kaya kahit alam nating mali na, ginagawa pa rin natin. Kaya kahit na alam nating makakasira sa atin, tuloy pa rin tayo, okay lang, mahal ko siya eh. Kahit mali na. Why? Because the emotion is already there. And that's why it's important that we need to understand that agape, the agape, the unconditional, selfless agape, yun, the highest form of types in the Bible is something that is devotional. May devoted ka, intentional, conscious choice. It's not motivated by superficial appearance. It's not motivated by emotional attraction. It's not bold. Narinig ba yung tunog na gano'n? Sa akin ba nagagaling yung tunog na yan? Anyway. Or it's not being buoyed up by sentimental relationship. No, it's different. Agape, or agapeo, is an act of self-sacrifice to serve the recipient. An act of self-sacrifice to serve the recipient. Now tell me, kung yung nagmamahal sa'yo, ganun kamahalin, do you think makakaproblema ang mga relationship? Wala. The only problem nagkakaproblema ang mga relationship is because when we want what we want, not do what's good for the other partner. May it be relationship in family, office, brotherhood, or even intimacy. The agape is volitional. Agape is intentional. Phileo is emotional. Agape love does not depend on the world for criteria. It depends on his desire or her desire to commit. Brothers and sisters, when we talk about the ultimate expression of love, which is God, and he defined this as agape love, the agape love is love that is never based on impulse. It's based on commitment. That's why in John 13, verse 35, everybody, read this with me. By this all men will know that you are my disciples if you love agape for one another. This series will talk about the different relationships you have in your life. Relationship with God first, the foundation. Relationship with your future husband or future wife, or for some of you who might be already married, relationship with your husband and wife. This series will also talk about relationships in the family. How do we function as a family? Or how do we do it as singles? How do we do this? Then fourth, we're going to also talk about relationships in the workplace. Since majority of the mic is new, yes, hello. Since yun, no, medyo mas pang anong boss ko dito, gumanda. We'll talk about the fourth, relationship in the workplace. Why? You would spend 70% of your waking hours in the workplace. Don't you think the relationships you have in the workplace is a critical component of your life? Oo. Kaya kung di mo ayusin yun, mahihirapan ka. And then finally, we'll talk about relationships in the community. What is our role as singles? What is our role in this world we want to change? What is our role? And all of these things will be talked about in the next couple of Fridays here in our hashtag relationship goals. Love is not an emotional feeling. Love is more than that. Love is a commitment. It's sacrificial. It's not selfish. That's why in John 3, verse 16, by the way, this is the most popular verse ever. Okay? This is the most popular verse ever. Everybody, can you read this with me? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but will have eternal life. This is the ultimate expression of God's love for you and me. And I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, already are familiar with this verse. Kaya tinanong ko sa sarili ko, if I'm going to talk about God's love emanating from this verse, most of you probably have heard this. Most of you already have understood some of what this actually mean. But I was asking myself, kailan ba nagkaroon ng opportunity day to day na may isang tao magpapakamatay sa akin? Gaano kadami ba yung sitwasyon na magkakaroon ako that people will die for me? So in short, what I'm trying to say is, when we try to put it in a relevant human aspect into our lives, when someone would lay his life for us, oftentimes it's something up there. Para siyang, wow, tindi. Ang bigat ng binigay. Which is absolutely true. And I never, ever could ever water down that gift. In fact, that gift is something that we could never fully comprehend. But my question to myself is, okay, Ikoy, if my God, if Jesus really died for me, what does that mean to ordinary people like you and me? Ano yun? How will that radically transform and change my perspective about love? And then I come across a verse like this, Ephesians chapter 3, verse 17 to 19. Could you read it with me, please? So that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, and that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ, which surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled up to all the fullness of God. So if I'm going to look at the definition of God's love for us, that he will not spare anything, he will not hold back anything, so that he could express his love for you and me. And then intersect that definition to what Paul is saying in the book of Ephesians, that I don't have the knowledge is so depth, masyado matindi. Hinihingi ko nga na makomprehend ko yan. Kaya lang sa lalim, sa haba, sa bigat, sa laki, the infinite love of God for me, I will never fully understand. And that's why you and me, we're trying to attempt to understand that. We're trying to attempt in our own finite mind to understand what God's love is. But the truth of the matter is, kahit anong gawin natin, we will never be able to fully comprehend. And that's why it's a privilege when we understand a little in our own limited capacity to understand this God's love is for us. And that's how we experience Him. Kaya tinanong ko sarili ko, okay, Lord, paano ko masishare sa mga tao na mahal mo kami? Paano ko masishare na ang relationship goals namin ay mauna ka muna para lahat susunod? How could I do that? And that's why we ask ourselves, ano ba yung mga hinahanap ng mga tao when it comes to love? When it comes to relationships, ano ba yung mga hinahanap natin? And we have a checklist on that. First, gusto daw ng mga tao, you believe in me. Gusto niyo ba yon? Yung mahal kayo, naniniwala sa inyo? Second, gusto niyo rin daw, sees your worth. Ibig sabihin nun, hindi ka binabariwala. Right? Dapat kikita ka for who you are. Okay? Third, always outgives. Napakaganda namang girlfriend or boyfriend, asawa o ano yun? Always outgives. Bibigyan ka always more than what you could give. Saka makakita ng ganun. And then fourth, never gives up. Wow, look around us. The trend for people giving up in relationships, year in, year out, is increasing. More people are getting divorced. More people are not getting married. More people are getting out of relationships. More people are contented in no commitment type of relationships. All of this point to one reason. Because all people give up. we give up. And then the last is that always forgives. Now, if we have a relationship that is constant and unchanging and has all of these 5 things, would you want to have this type of relationship? I don't even have to ask that. I'm sure you would all want to have this type of relationship, right? And that's the reason why I go back to how I started this message. That the most important thing for us to understand about relationship, about love, is we need to know what is the right approach. We need to know the right perspective. We need to put in here what is right first, and then emotions follow. So I was thinking, of the hundreds of examples I could find in the Bible to mirror or to have a snapshot of this type of unchanging, constant love of God showed to His people, I was trying to find out, ano ba yung the best way to be able to present this to you in a story? And so the Lord led me into a person. He's an apostle. And tonight we will look in the next 20 minutes a slice, a piece of the life of the timeline of the apostle Peter. And in this narrative, in his story, I pray that we could be able to paint a canvas of how God loves you and me. And so let me take you to the end of John 21. The last chapter of this book focuses on the restoration of Peter. It's focused on the restoration of Peter. By the way, before we read the Bible text, meron ba rito nakapanood na ng sine na ang simula ng sine ending? Meron na kayo nakapanood na nun? Ha? Yung napanood ko, yung pinakahuli, yung Arrival ba yun? Arrival? Yeah, Arrival. Palabas na yung Arrival? Okay, good. Kasi baka isipin nyo, pinanood ko sa, pinanood ko sa sine. Okay? So, guilty, no? Anyway, hindi tayo nasa MTRCB ngayon, okay? Nasa ano tayo? Okay, go. Where was I? Yun. End at start, beginning end. Movies which starts at the end and then backtracks, forces. Do you know why director do that? Do you know why? Because it forces the audience to pay close attention to the details. Second, it enhances the context and the background and the message of what the movie is trying to convey. And so I'm going to take that principle. I'm going to apply it tonight. And so I'm going to show you an ending first. This is an ending. And then we're going to backtrack. Backtrack the story and the life of Peter on how he came to this part of his life. John. So obviously, this is already in verse 15 to 18 to 17. So let me take you first to John 21. Verse 1, so you can have a context of what's happening here in this narrative. All right, context, John 21, verse 1. Everybody, read this with me. After these things, Jesus manifested himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias and manifested himself in this way. Hold. Context ulit. Pause. Pag-isabi muna natin. Don't you love a nice movie? I love a nice movie where the stories, narratives, palipat-lipat, umaandar na intindihan ko lalo. Ang sarap panood ng movie na ganun eh. And so I pray that tonight, that's how we're going to approach the verses in this Bible. Because the Bible is one amazing movie. Ang tindi ng Bible. Pinakamakagandang script, plot, pinakamatinding actors and actresses, pinakamatinding purpose and meaning, ang tindi. So let me share to you why. Okay, back context. After these things manifest himself, ibig sabihin nito, nandun na sila sa part ng history ng Bible na si Jesus namatay, nabuhay ulit, at ngayon nagpapakita na sa mga tao. I don't want to lose you. This part is where Jesus is now showing himself up to all the people, proving to everyone that he has conquered death, that he made sure of what he said, of what he promised, that he will return and live again after 3 days. Ito po yun. So, kaya sinabi niyan, he manifested himself in this way. Kasi papakita na siya. Verse 2, Simon Peter and Thomas called Didymus and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee and the sons of Zebedee and 2 others of disciples were together. Verse 3, everybody, verse 3. Simon Peter said to them, I am going fishing. They said to him, we will also come with you. They went out and got into the boat, and that night they caught nothing. Okay, ito po yung storya. Ito po yung scene. They went fishing and they caught nothing. Are you familiar that somewhere down at the early stage of Peter's life, there was a similar story? There was a similar scene na nangyayari to? Meron ba dito nakakaalam ng similar scene na yun? Let me tell you, there is. By the way, pag nakita tayo ng frame na red, para hindi tayo marito, nilagyan ko ng frame na red, ibig sabihin yan, nagpa-flashback tayo. Para hindi tayo malito. Pag may red, flashback. Pag walang red, yung pinag-usapan natin story ngayon. So may flashback. Flashback tayo. Anong title ng flashback? The First Disciples. So ibig sabihin, this is the first time that Peter was called by Jesus. First time niya ma-encounter si Peter. First time niya ma-encounter si Jesus. And let me tell you how it happened. Now it happened that while the crowd was pressing around him and listening to the word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, and he saw two boats lying at the edge of the lake. But the fishermen had gotten out of them and were washing their nets. Ano yung sabihin nun? When wala na sa barko yung mga mangingisda at nililinis na nila yung nets, yung lambat. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Ano ibig sabihin nun? Tapos na sila mangisda. Okay, I just want to make sure we caught that. Okay? So tapos sila mangisda. And he got into one of the boats, Jesus, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little way from the land, and he sat down and began teaching the people from the boat. Remember, this is the first encounter of these disciples to Jesus. Let's continue in verse 4. When he finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch. Now, we all know that Simon and all the disciples were avid professional fishermen. And for them to be thought, ito yung gawin mo, obviously sounds a little bit ridiculous, right? But look what Simon said. He answered, Master, we work hard all night and caught nothing, but we'll do as you say and let down the nets. And in verse 6, when they had done this, they enclosed a great quantity of fish, and their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat for them to come and help them. And they came and filled both of the boats, so they began to sink. When this was happening, one of the first miracles in the life of Peter, look at how Peter responded in verse 8. But when Simon Peter saw that, he fell down at Jesus' feet, saying, Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. For amazement has seized him and all his companions because of the catch of the fish which they had taken. In verse 10, and so were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, Do not fear. From now on, you will be catching men. When they had brought their boats to land, they left everything and followed him. Some of you might be familiar with this. This is the big fish story, the big fish. This is when the time when Peter was caught. Peter was caught by Jesus. And so I was asking myself, this scenario, when Jesus called Peter, yung unang time niya na-meet si Jesus, I'm sure hindi makakalimutan ni Peter yon. I'm sure it's something that has been engraved in his head. And that's why when I saw the same thing happening, balik na tayo balik tayo, ito yung flashback balik na tayo doon sa ating storya. When I saw when I saw this happening in the early part of verse 21, I am going fishing, we will also come with you. They went out, got in the boat, and that night they caught nothing. Automatically, naalala ko, teka, itong scene na to, nangyari na to Nangyari to sa nung unang time na nagkita si Peter at si Jesus. And exactly, look at what happened in verse 4. When the day was now breaking, Jesus stood on the beach. The disciples did not know that it was Jesus. So Jesus said to them, Children, do you have any fish, by the way, so that I don't lose you? Hindi maintindihan, hindi pa kilala masyado, hindi sigurado yung mga disciples kung si Jesus talaga yon. Okay? I just want to make that clear to everyone. In verse 5, Jesus said to them, Children, do you have any fish with you? The vision, the picture of what's happening is that Jesus was in the beach. Peter and the disciples were there in the river or in the sea. Medyo malayo. So parang sumisigaw siguro si Jesus, meron ba kayong nakuhang isda, mga anak? He was shouting because malayo. And they answered, No. And in verse 6, he said to them, Cast the net on the right-hand side of the boat and you will find the catch. Again, similar narrative. The same scenario, what happened previously when Peter was being called to Jesus to be part of his disciples. And again, it happened. So they cast and they were not able to haul it in because of the great number of fish. And look what happened next. After this, nung nakuha nila yung manami, look at what John said. Therefore, the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." Naisip niya, naalala na, teka, malayo, hindi ko nakikita kung si Jesus talaga yan. Hindi ako sure kasi totoo ba talagang bumangon na siya? Totoo ba talagang he's now alive and everything? So all of these things was running around his head. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the guy gives him an amazing instruction. Drop your nets on the right side of the boat and you will get a large catch. So when they did that, and true enough, when they hauled it, it's an amazing catch. It triggered John. John remembered, wait, this is something that's happened before. Peter, it is the Lord. That's why it said. And when that happened, look, when Peter heard that it was the Lord, and here's the amazing thing that initially I couldn't understand. He put his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and he threw himself to the sea. Huh? Bakit? Why did he all of a sudden? Diba, remember, Jesus was on the beach. The disciples of the boat were a little bit far off. Why did Peter jump out of the boat, put on his outer garment first, jump out of the boat, and went to Jesus? Why? Bakit? Eh, tsaka ba't si Peter lang? Why did Peter threw himself into the sea? Why? Why did Peter threw himself to the sea? Remember, where were we? We are in a time where Jesus has resurrected for only about 1 to 2 weeks. What was the last time? What was the last thing that Peter did to Jesus? What was the last time? What was the last encounter before Jesus resurrected, before Jesus was crucified? What was the last scene that Peter was with Jesus? We'll go to that story in a while. So he threw himself into the sea. And threw himself into the sea. By the way, the word threw is lunge. The word threw is lunge, meaning reckless abandon. Walang pakialam, tumalo na lang. And swam with his clothes on. You must understand the mindset of Peter. You need to understand this, the mindset of Peter. Ano nangyayari sa utak ni Peter? Bakit siya kailangan mag-desisyon ng gano'n? But all of a sudden, he had to do like that. You see, Peter, if you look at Peter's history, he's in the inner circle. Peter is in the inner circle. He's considered to be the first among equals. Do you know that principle, first among equals? First among equals is a principle wherein you all have the same rank, but someone among you rises as the natural leader. Peter is the natural leader. He rose up. He said he had the same ranking. And in this same seaside is where Jesus called Peter the first time they both met. The first time that I shared to you kanina that he left everything. This is the same Peter that said that I am unshakable in my faith to you, Lord Jesus. And you could see a flashback. Matthew 26. Then Jesus said to them, "You will fall away because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike down the shepherd and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go ahead to Galilee to you." So all of these things are happening before. But Peter said to him, "Even though all may fail because of you, I will never fall away." Ito yung statement ni Peter. Sabi ni Peter, before nangyari yung time na to na tumalon siya sa tubig, sabi niya, "Lord, ako ang pinakamatigas. I will not fall away." And in verse 34, everybody read verse 34. Jesus said to him, "Truly, I say to you, that this very night before a rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And what Peter said? Look at how Peter answered. "Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you." And all the disciples said the same thing. I plucked this out because I want all of you to understand the mindset of Peter. So Peter undeniably said, "I am unshakable. I will not fall. I will not deny you." Right? Yun yung sinasabi ni Peter kay Jesus. And yet we all know the story. We all know the story. How did he deny Jesus? And let me take you to that snapshot in the history of Peter. Having arrested him, meaning Jesus, they led him away and brought him to the house of the high priest. But Peter was following at a distance. After they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down, Peter was sitting among them. And a servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the firelight and looking intently at him, said, "This man was with him too." But he denied it, saying, "Woman, I did not know you." By the way, let me just quickly share a footnote. Women, servants, have actually no bearing during the time of Peter. They were considered a very, very low-class citizen. And yet, this particular detail Luke captured to emphasize the point that the one accusing Peter is one of a very low-rank individual in the social strata in the Middle Eastern village where Jesus was. And yet, and look, Peter addressed this lady as woman to give her more respect, to give you a snapshot of what's really inside the heart and mind of Peter during this time. That he was not only afraid, he was not only going to lie to his teeth, but he's also not in his right senses to even respect women during that time, which was considered a very low class in society. And look, as we continue in this story, in this flashback, a little later, another man saw him and said, "You're one of them too." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." After an hour has passed, another man began to insist, saying, "Certainly, this man also was him, for he's a Galilean too." In verse 60, he said, but Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you're talking about." Immediately, while he was still speaking, a rooster crowed, and the Lord turned at Peter and remembered the word of the Lord of how he told him, "Before a rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. This, brothers and sisters, is the last main engagement that Jesus had with Peter prior to Jesus being crucified. And that's why, dala-dala ni Peter to. Dala-dala ni Peter yung guilt, dala-dala ni Peter yung sumablay siya big time, dala-dala ni Peter yung, am I still going to be loved by the Lord? Dala-dala niya lahat po to. Kaya nung dumating yung time, balik na tayo, we're gonna go back to the main scene. I hope I'm not losing you. We're gonna go back to the main scene where we are now. That's why he threw himself to the sea. Because that was his thoughts. His thoughts were, I am ruined. I've dropped the ball so massively. Ang tindi ng pagkakamali ko, will Jesus still going to forgive me? And that's why he jumped, he ran. He swam, right? And in verse 9 says, when they got off the boat, they saw a charcoal fire already laid and the fish placed on it on the bread. Charcoal fire. Again, nung una ko nakita yung charcoal fire. Remember, nung dininay niya si Jesus, saan nagpunta si Peter? Sa charcoal fire. When he was in the courtyard, remember? He was cooling his heat. He was warming himself in a charcoal fire. That's when the woman, the servant lady, came to him and asked him and told him, "You are with him." And so all of these things, eerily similar to what has been happening to Peter. His thoughts were, is this going to be the end for me? After I denied him 3 times, would the Lord still forgive me? Ito yung mga iniisip ni Peter. Could he ever still use a failure like me? That was what Peter was saying. And that's why, amazingly, in verse 12, Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples ventured to question him. "Who are you?" Knowing it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread and gave it to them, and the fish likewise. This is now the 3rd time that Jesus was manifested to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. Obviously, lahat ng mga story nito para kay Peter. The 3rd time that he manifested himself is the 3rd time also of the way he denied Jesus. All of these things are being told him. And then look at what happened. And now it takes us to the climax of what was happening into the narrative that we are into tonight. In verse 15 it says, so when Jesus So when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said to him, tend my lamps. Folks, you need to realize that when Peter denied Jesus, it was public knowledge. Everyone knew how Peter failed Jesus. Everyone knew. And that's why this effort, this part where Jesus is now inviting Peter to have breakfast with him in front of the disciples, were Jesus' way of publicly restoring Peter. The disciples needed to hear that Jesus said, come, Peter, have breakfast with me. Jesus wanted the disciples to hear that because why? Because they needed to hear that. Because Jesus knew that Peter was going to be prepared for something bigger than his life can ever take when it comes to the explosion of the church. Peter was going to be the first one who would preach in a sermon that would save thousands of people. The Lord knew all of these. But obviously Peter and the disciples did not. And the reason why Jesus is publicly bringing Peter back is because when the time comes, when Peter fulfills the role that the Lord is preparing for him, the disciples would be able to support him. That's why the verse said in verse 15, do you love me more than these? Do you love me more? Ano yung these? Ano yung sabihin nun? What are these? Tinatanong ni Jesus, mas mahal mo ba ako sa mga yan? Ano yung mga yan? First, it could be the disciples, right? Jesus was asking Peter, hey Peter, do you love me more than you love your disciples? Second, it could also be, Peter, do you love me more than these? Do you love me more than the catch? Yung masyadong maraming isda na nakuha. Do you love me more than these? Or is it also because he was saying, do you love me, Jesus? Do you love me, Peter, more than these disciples actually love me? And that's the question that was posed for him. And now, because tayo, we don't understand that these words, love, tend, love, all of these things, they look the same. Kaya kanina, pinigyan ko kayo ng konting foundation on the language because here is going to be useful. Because actually the words that are being said here are the words agapeo and the words phileo. Let me repeat. When Jesus was telling the question, Jesus was asking them, Simon, son of John, do you agape me more than these? And the response of Peter is, yes, Lord, you know that I phileo you. Yun yung exchanges. Jesus was asking him, Peter, do you love me 100%? And the response of Peter is, Lord, I love you 60%. Because phileo yung sagot niya. And the same question, ganun ulit yun. Another time, the same question, Simon, son of John, do you agape me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I phileo you. Again, the second time, Jesus gives Peter a chance. Peter, do you love me 100%? Do you love me unconditionally? Do you love me selflessly? Do you love me with all your heart and all your mind? And then Peter said again, Lord, I love you, phileo. I can only love you 60%. And then lastly, on the third time, Simon, son of John, do you phileo me? And now on the third time, Jesus did not exactly repeat the same question. Now Jesus goes down to the level of what Peter can say and said, okay, Peter, you can't love me 100%. Okay, so let me ask you again a question. Peter, do you phileo me? And that's why when Peter said, it was grieved, for the Lord asked him for the third time, and then he answered back, do you phileo me? And he said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I phileo you. And so Jesus said to him, tend my sheep. Why do I went out of my way to paint this picture for all of you? Obviously not to confuse you. but only to allow you to understand the amazing love that the Lord has for us. You see, you would have seen the difference in the life of Peter. Initially, Peter was a very abrasive kind of a guy. When Jesus was saying, "You will all abandon me," Peter said, "No, I will not abandon you." When Jesus said, "No, what? You will deny me," Peter was said, "No, I will never deny you. In fact, I will die for you." So you see, now, at this point, something happened to Peter. A humbling experience that allowed him to understand the love of Jesus more and more. And that's why when Jesus was asking Peter, "Peter, 100% mo ba akong mahal? Do you agapeo love me?" Peter was saying, "Lord, hindi ko kaya yan. I can't. I can only give 60% because I know I'm a sinner. I know I can't be able to do that. I know I can't be able to give you everything. But you know, Lord," that's why on the third part, he said, "Lord, you know my heart." Look at the third part. "Lord, you know all things." Peter was grieving and said to him, you know all things. You know that I love you." Dinagdagan niya na, "You know all things." Why? Because he was pouring his heart out to the Lord saying, "Lord, alam mo naman yung puso ko eh. Alam mo, hindi ko kaya yan, pero yan ang gusto kong gawin, Lord. Yan ang gusto kong gawin, but I can't do it, and you need to help me do it." That was what Peter was saying. "Lord, I cannot demand now. Lord, I cannot claim now. Lord, I have no confidence in myself, Lord, but I have confidence in you, Lord. That's why, Lord, you know all things. You see my heart. You know what my desires are. You know I want to follow you. You know I want to give 100% to you. You know I want to really give you unconditional love. But, Lord, I can't do that. But you need to help me, Lord. You need to allow me to have the strength only from you so I could give that to you." And that was what Peter was saying. And when Jesus saw that in Peter's heart, that's when he said, "You're restored. You go tend my sheep. You go feed my lambs." And why did I put that here? Because a lot of us here in this room, that's how we feel when it comes to God's love. We feel we failed Him miserably. We feel that because we've done things over and over again, wala tayong harap na mukhang maharap sa Kanya, ayaw natin gawin yung mga para ikakabuti niya. We're afraid to risk our faith for Him. We're holding back because we think that because we dropped the ball so many times, we failed Him so many times, we don't deserve another chance. Folks, that is a complete lie. We started asking you wanted a relationship goal that is constant, that is unchanging. It is this same God, written beautifully in the narrative of Peter's life, that sees the amazing, unconditional love of God for you and me. He's saying, Peter, kahit ikaw na yung pinakapalpak na apostol, kahit ikaw na pinakamasamang ginawang apostol, dinay mo ako 3 beses kahit sinabi mo. By the way, during their time, it's an honor and shame society. Pag sinabi mo, sinabi mo. Your word is gold during that time. That's why if you say something wrong, you'll give up your life. If you say no to a promise, you allow someone to inflict harm on you. Why? Because it's so much culture of honor and shame. And that's why for this guy, Peter, he's so embarrassed, he's so ashamed of what he has done, and yet in spite of that, Jesus said, "Feed my lambs, tend my sheep." Why? Because that's the amazing love of God. Sobra-sobra. Hindi ka dapat mahiya. Mahiya ka, pero hindi ka dapat ma-discourage. Di ba? Iba yun eh. Mahiya ka sa sobrang kabaitan niya, you need to go back and reciprocate His love for Him. Amazing thing. Love makes it all worthwhile. When Peter came to the Lord, you know all these things. Alam mo naman to, Lord eh. You know my heart, Lord. You know my motivation is to really to honor you. And when He says that, and when the Lord sees that in our hearts, every one of us here, He sees our heart, our desire to sincerely want to honor and follow Him. Kaya lang hirap na hirap tayo minsan. But if we sincerely want to honor Him, He will give you the strength. He will give you the equipping. He will give you the means for you to be able to honor and to glorify Him. Let me ask you this. What good will your love do to Jesus? Can I ask you? What love what will your love do to Jesus? Can our love here collectively, can our love collectively add an iota of blessedness to God? Yung love ba natin dito can add worth to the Lord? Yung love ba natin lahat dito can add to His holiness? Wala. It will not even have a glimpse or not a hint. So I ask myself, Lord, why do you love us to love you? Lord, ba't mo pa laging sinasabi sa amin, love you? Lord, ba't mo pa sinasabi sa amin, love you with all our heart? Lahat naman na pag binahal ka naman namin, wala namang idadagdag sa iyo to. Wala namang value sa iyo to. Bakit, Lord, gusto mo? Ba't mo gusto kaming mahalin ka? Bakit? And that's when I realized that that's love of God for us is so unconditional. The reason He wants us to love Him is not so that we would add more to Him. He wants us to love Him because if we love Him, we are the ones that are going to be blessed. Tayo, hindi siya. Hindi na niya kasi kailangan eh. Kung naiintindihan natin na ganun ang pagmamahal ng Panginoon sa atin, na kaya na tayo, gusto na tayong mahalin mo ako, not for me, mahalin mo ako para sa'yo. Unconditional. Agapeo kind of love. Because He doesn't need our love. And yet He desires, He wants us to give that to Him. And that's when I realized, Lord, kaya mo gusto mahalin ka namin. Kasi pag minamahal ka namin, mabibless kami. At yun po yung kailangan natin iuwi ngayong gabing to. Most of us come to our relationship with the Lord like a chore. Kailangan natin gawin to. We need to do this. Kailangan gawin. Never the other way around. Lord, I want to do this for you. Lord, gusto kong gawin sa iyo to. And I tell you, brothers and sisters, if we understand this perspective, that the more we love Jesus, the more we are satisfied to Him, the more we want of Him. The more we thirst for Him, the more we want to love Him more. The more we understand. Kaya ang dasal ko lagi, Lord, turuan mo ako na maintindihan bakit ako gaano mo ako kamahal. Kasi the more I understand that, the more I would love. It's the Christian paradox. The Christian paradox, the more we are satisfied with God's love, the more we want more of Him in our life. Amazing paradox. And that's why tonight, as we end, I want to share with you with this question. Do you think it was cruel for the Lord to remind Peter 3 times of what he did? Do you think it was cruel for the Lord to remind Peter that you denied me 3 times? Do you think it was cruel for the Lord to allow Peter to go through this? Pinakita niya ulit yung nangyari before, pinate niya yung storya na mangyayari ulit, nangyari dati. Do you think all of these things are a little bit cruel? If you don't know Jesus, you would feel it's cruel. But if you know Jesus, you will understand that the reason Jesus did that, the reason why He had to call back Peter and remind him of that 3 things, 3 denials in front of the other people, in front of the disciples, the reason why Jesus did that is so that Peter will stop thinking, Jesus, napagbigyan mo na ba ako? Jesus, do you still carry that grudge? Jesus, have you forgiven me? All this time, that was the thoughts of Peter. Iniisip niya, Lord, napagbigyan na ba ako ng Panginoon? Napagbigyan na ba ako ng Panginoon? Until this time when Peter was invited to come and have breakfast. That's when he knew that you are already forgiven. Wala na yan. Tapos na yan. Pinagbayaran ko na yan. I have forgiven you. And a lot of you here, you're carrying a lot of grudge for the Lord. Lord, I did something that I cannot go over with. Lord, baka lagi mo naaalala to, Lord.
Baka Lord, kaya ako hindi makapag-serve sa'yo, kaya hindi ako makapag-seryoso sa'yo, kaya hindi ako makapagpabait, kasi alam ko, hindi ko kayang gawin to, kasi nga, masama akong tao, and all of these things. It's a lie, because God's love is more than that. God's love has already forgiven us. And that's why Henry Blackaby once said, God's command are designed to guide you. Nako, hindi maganda yung ano ko. God's commands are designed to guide you so that He could give you the very best. God's command are designed to give you so that you can have the very best. You will not obey Him if you do not believe Him and trust Him. And you cannot believe Him if you do not love Him. You cannot love Him unless you know Him. I want to end with this story. I think some of you have heard this story, but let me just repeat it again. I love chicken. I'm a chicken kind of guy. I can eat chicken every single day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'm that type, okay? But I do not like white chicken. I cannot eat white chicken. Ang kakainin ko lang, thigh. Chicken thigh. Yun lang nakakainin ko. I'm a thigh, yun lang. Tsaka yung wing. Pero hindi ako pwedeng mag-breast. Hindi ako pwede nun. So I was growing up, my mom knew that I love to eat chicken. So every time kumakain kami, kinukuha ko lagi yung thigh. Kasi pinagusto ko eh. Pag nagluluto siya, lagi na sinasabi, gusto mo ba ng chicken? Yes. Paghahanda na yung thigh, automatic sa akin yung thigh. So for all these years, kain ako ng thigh. Ang nanay ko, pag kumakain kami, kasi lagi ko kasama nanay ko eh. Dalawa na lang kami ng mami ko. My sister died and my dad died. Pag kami ng dalawa na nanay ko kumakain sa chicken, sa kanya lagi yung breast part. Sa akin lagi yung thigh part. Every single time. For over 40 years, yun ang ginagawa namin. Until one time, there was one night, I wasn't hungry. My mom prepared chicken. And then all of a sudden, my mom was eating thigh part. Ba't di kumakain ng, sa loob ko lang naman, ba't di kumakain ng breast, paborito na nanay ko, breast. Ba't kinakain na yung thigh? So I kind of like interestingly probed and said, oh ma, bakit thigh ang kinakain mo? Hindi yung, di ba, bago ko sabihin, di ba favorite mo yung sabi ko sana breast, alam mo sinabi niya, favorite ko yung thigh. Sabi ko, love ko. Baka hindi ko na narinig ng tama. So, pinrobe ko. Ma, favorite mo ba yung thigh? Oh, so she was eating, favorite mo yung thigh? So, love ko, all these years, akala ko, favorite mo yung breast. Kasi every time kumakain tayo, ako automatic kukunin ko yung thigh, ikaw bibigay mo sa akin, automatic bibigay mo sa akin yung thigh, pero di mo kinakain yung thigh, breast ka lang. And that's when I realized, kaya para na kinakain yung breast, kasi gusto nung anak niya, yung thigh. Unconditional love. And that's when I realized, kung ganito kamahal itong nanay ko na to, lahat ng bagay, ibibigay ko sa nanay ko. Kaya ngayon, lahat ng bagay, I lavish her. Lahat. Hanggat kaya ko. Lahat. Bigay. Why? Because ganoon ako kamahal ng nanay ko eh. But it had to me to realize that that is how he loves, how she loves me. For me to be able to reciprocate that love to her. Ganon din po tayo. Kailangan natin maintindihan, gaano ba tayo kamahal ng Panginoon? Kasi the more we realize kung gaano tayo kamahal ng Panginoon, the more we want to give back to Him. The more we want to spend time with Him. The more we want to follow Him. The more we want to obey Him. The more we want to honor Him. The more we want to worship Him. The more we want to do all things to Him. The more we want Him to put the priorities in our life. The more we want to put Him as the priority in our life. Yun. Yun ang relationship goals. Tignan natin siya, kilalanin natin siya, and then all of these things, once we realize that, once the vertical is fixed, all the horizontal follows. Bakit ng mga tao, lahat kasundo? Kasi kasundo na yung Panginoon eh. Kaya lahat ng tao kasundo. It takes a sincere effort in our part. Sincere effort in our part. Just, Lord, tell Him, Just like Peter told him, Lord, I cannot agapeo love you. I can only phileo love you. But the phileo love, as long as it's been given out of the heart, as long as buong-buo yung puso mo about that phileo love, that 60% love, the Lord is saying, that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. And if that's good enough for Peter, that's good enough for each one of us here tonight. Let's pray.